For all the talk of climate change and changing to renewable energies, it seems that China are far ahead of the rest of us when it comes to it. Now have a look at this article from The Guardian on it. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, guys, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from The Guardian. China is on course to hit wind and solar power targets 5 years ahead of time. With all the money that they have in their pockets, they can certainly do that. But are they reducing their CO2 emissions as well? Let's read into it, shall we? Beijing's bolstering position as a global renewable leader with solar capacity more than the rest of the world combined. Ooh. China is shoring up its position as the world leader in renewable power and potentially outpacing its own ambitious energy targets, a report has found. China is set to double its capacity and produce 1,200 gigawatts of energy through wind and solar power by 2025, reaching its 2030 global 5 years ahead of time, according to the report by Global Energy Monitor, a San Francisco-based NGO that tracks the operating utility scales of wind and solar farm, as well as future projects in the country. It says that the first quarter of the year, China utility scale solar capacity has reached 228 gigawatts, more than the rest of the world combined. The installations are concentrated in the country's north and northwest province, such as Xinjiang and Hebei. Apologies for mispronounced the Chinese cities there. In addition, the group identifies solar farms under construction that could add another 379 gigawatts in prospective capacity, tripling that of the US and nearly double that of Europe. Jesus. China has also made huge strides in wind capacity. Its combined onshore and offshore capacity now surpasses 310 gigawatts, doubling its 2017 level and roughly equivalent to the next top 7 countries combined. With projects in Inner Mongolia, Xinjiang, Gansu along the coastal areas, China is on course to add another 371 gigawatts before 2025, increasing the global wind fleet by nearly half. This new data provides unrivaled granularity about China's jaw-dropping surge in solar and wind capacity, said Dou Jiming, a project manager at Global Energy Monitor. As we closely monitor the implementation of prospective projects, this detailed information becomes indispensable in navigating the country's energy landscape. The findings are in line with previous reports and government data released this year, which predicts that China could easily surpass its targets of supplying a third of its power consumption through renewable sources by 2030. China's green energy drive is part of its efforts to meet dual carbon goals set out in 2020. As the world's second largest economy, it is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases and accounts for half of the world's coal consumption. The Chinese President Xi Jinping has pledged in 2020 to achieve peak CO2 emissions before 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2060. Well, they're still the world's coal consumption and it's still the biggest emitter. That is for sure, guys. This report attributes China's remarkable progress in expanding its non-fossil energy sources into a range of policies its government has implemented, including generous subsidies to incentivize developers as well as regulations to put pressure on provincial governments for generating companies. Yeah, see, this is the king. If you want to incentivize private companies to do these kinds of things, you need to put the incentives in there for them. And what do private companies get incentivized? Incentivized by more than anything? Money. So if you put money in front of them, they'll do it. And especially if they end up making money out of it, it's a win-win situation, isn't it? China begins operating the world's largest hybrid solar hydro power plant in the Tibetan Plateau on Sunday, named Ketja. The plant can produce 2 billion kilowatts of hours of electricity annually, equal to the energy consumption of more than 700,000 households. I would not be surprised if they're already doing this, but passing on this energy to neighbouring countries and charging them for it wouldn't surprise me at all. It is only the first phase of a massive clean energy project in the Yangon River bastion. The installation has a 20 gigawatt capacity and is now expected to reach about 50 gigawatts by 2030. Despite China's careful planning, this energy transition is not without its challenges. In recent years, record heat waves and droughts crippled hydropower stations, resulting in power crunches that brought factories to a halt. An outdated electricity grid and inflexibility in transferring energy between regions added to the uncertainty. The Quetta plant is located in the sparsely populated west of the country, where more than 3/4 of the coal, wind and solar power is generated, but the vast majority of energy consumption happens in the east. Transporting energy thousands of miles across the country results in inefficientness. Well, it should be able to build the infrastructure in order to funnel that energy from the east to the west, from the west to the east, shouldn't they? Really? Am I getting my things mixed up, aren't I? The way China's grid is organised can incentivise building coal power plants around renewable energy generators. Much of the renewable capacity is not connected to local energy supplies and often bundled with coal power plants to be transmitted to the areas of higher demand. More coal power was improved in the first 3 months of 2023 in the whole of 2021. China is making strides, says Martin Wee, a researcher at the Global Energy Monitor and an author of the report. But with coal still holding sway as the dominant power source, the country needs bolder advancements in energy storage and green technologies for a secure energy future. Well, if they're making these emissions, if they're making so much wind and solar power, then they should be able to change their ways, shouldn't they? Really, to be fair, guys. I mean, if I'm thinking about this is when you have the money and you have one of the largest economies and one of the largest economies in the world, second largest. I'm surprised they haven't overtaken America the way they're going. I'm surprised they're not being able to kind of wind down on the CO2. But as they said in the article here, obviously most of it's being produced on the other side of the country, where there's less population. But obviously, if you build the infrastructure so it could be transferred to the other side of the country, then it wouldn't be so much of an issue. But they are facing challenges to do so. But the fact that they're already ahead of those energy targets shows the ambition and determination that they are. They understand China for all the things you might think of them. They understand that. I do think they believe climate change is real. I think they know it and they see it. And they're obviously preparing for it, and rightly so. And other nations need to prepare for it too. I've been covering quite a lot on some of our news, obviously, lately with regards to climate stuff. And I think it's important that we talk about these things. Of course, there's always lots of things happening in the world, but I think this one here about China being ahead of wind and solar, this is something I've showing that, hey, for all of China's faults, they are keen on changing their tune from the looks of it here. Are you guys surprised by this, that they're well ahead of the targets? What do you guys honestly think? I mean, it says here, obviously, they're looking to be completely by 2060 to be carbon neutrality, which is still a long way off. Carbon neutrality, still a long way off from achieving that. But China are one of the biggest emitters. That is for sure. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Eager to hear your thoughts on it. Like, share, and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.